Welcome to Join Our Town. My name is Terry Bates. I'm the pastor of Faith Church here in Oklahoma City, and I have the privilege of being your host for today's broadcast. And I have with me today both a very special friend and a very knowledgeable man who is an independent insurance agent who specializes in the area of Medicare. And in this world in which we live in which there's been a lot of changes, and I should say constant changes going on, we're going to do our best to update you on a number of different critical areas about things that you need to know currently about the changes that are happening for seniors in the area of Medicare. So help me welcome David Miller. David, it's good to have you with us today.
It's good to be here.
Well, this whole world of insurance and in particularly Medicare is a fascinating area that's probably got a lot of people thinking, what in the world am I going to do right now? Let me start from a premise that, you know, as a pastor, sometimes this field is getting smaller, but there for years were people who said, oh, as believers, we shouldn't worry about insurance. God will take care of us. God will provide. And yet I tell people, well, in the Bible, he told us that there was going to be calamities and casualties and we needed to prepare for them. And so to not prepare, I think, is an injustice to our family. I think if I do take out insurance, I'm more God-honoring because I'm taking care of my family, taking care of my situation, and trying to prevent a wipeout, economic wipeout, right, that would prevent me from taking care of myself or anybody else. So I just want to kind of lay the platform here for people that the reason why it's important for us to have this discussion, even though there may be people who say, I'm just going to trust God, there are people who feel a stewardship responsibility to protect their assets, make sure they've got adequate health care, and to protect their family. Okay? So with that being said, Medicare, I'm sure most of our viewers know, but let me just ask you to distinguish for me the difference between Medicaid and Medicare for a minute.
Well, Medicaid is for people who have low income and few resources. Medicare is generally for seniors and people under 65 who have disabilities. Okay.
And if I'm turned 65, and whether I have my own health care insurance or whether I'm on assistance Medicaid from the government, there's a gap of coverage for a lot of people. And this is where Medicare steps in?
Yes, that's exactly right.
And so what kind of things would I be looking to Medicare to help me with if I engage that particular plan, a particular plan?
Well, there are several types of coverage you can get through Medicare, and that's where it becomes very confusing for people. When is the right time to sign up, and what do I sign up for? And there's a lot of erroneous information out there that is confusing on top of that.
Yeah. So right now we are in what's called open enrollment season as we're taping today, and during this window until December the 7th of 2016 is called an open enrollment. There's always an open enrollment in the fall, correct?
Well, it's actually for Medicare is called annual enrollment period.
Okay.
The open enrollment you hear about is for the ACA, or what a lot of people understand as Obamacare.
Okay. Now, so in the enrollment period that we have here, is there, in this enrollment period, if I need to sign up for Medicare in May and it's not the annual enrollment period, I can still sign up, but there's a difference between that time of signing up and this time, correct?
Right. When you're first eligible for Medicare, that's what's called open enrollment period, and it is a short time of a period. It actually is 3 months before your eligibility, the month of your eligibility, and 3 months after. That's called open enrollment for Medicare.
Now, in open enrollment, and help me because I'm really asking these questions because I don't know the answers here. Okay. But in open enrollment period, is there, do they have to be concerned about pre-existing health conditions?
No, they don't.
What about annual enrollment?
Annual enrollment, they can make certain changes depending on their health conditions.
So when they first get in, it's an open door policy, everybody gets in,
right?
No disqualifiers. Once I'm in and I've chosen a pathway, now down the road, 2 years, 3 years, if I need to change which Part D, A, whatever those are that I changed, now I have to consider how my health may have changed during this period of time that may or may not allow me to choose a different plan?
For some plans, that's true. The prescription drug plan can be changed every year, and the Part C Medicare Advantage can be changed every year.
Okay, so obviously it's going to be difficult for you to get real specific because we're talking in generalities.
Right.
But can you give me some basic examples of how one plan might be different in its offering as opposed to, so when you're sitting with a client and helping them make choices, you're saying, is prescription medication more important to you? I don't know, they include long-term care concern situations, or is the 20% that your medical coverage doesn't cover, that 80-20 rule, is that important? What are some of the specifics that you're going to need to ask a client about what their priorities are or their values are to help them discern what the best plan for them is?
Well, part of it is how much risk are they willing to take? Now, what's called original Medicare is Parts A and B, which is hospital and doctor care. Mm-hmm. Parts C is Medicare Advantage, and you're required to have Part A and B, but you won't use it. You'll use the Part C. And then Part D is prescription drug plans. Okay. Some of your Medicare Advantage plans of Part C also have Part D or prescription drugs as part of that plan. Okay. So that's where it begins to really get confusing. And it's important for them to understand the differences because of health conditions that they may have when they sign up or they may develop later will maybe limit what options they will have down the road.
Okay. So one of the first things that I would think that you also have to evaluate is what kind of insurance do they currently have and what kind of coverage will the core insurance plan provide to them. Is that correct?
Well, that's after they sign up. Okay. When they first originally are qualified to sign up for Medicare, it's their choice. So they can choose what they want based on what the risks are they want to take and also what the premium is going to cost them.
So it's very important to have somebody like yourself somewhere who can point them into an intellectual, informed way of saying, in that open enrollment period, these are the things that I need to know, because it's a whole lot easier to get it right there than to get it after they've signed up for stuff and 5 years down the road needing to make changes.
That's correct.
So now, but even then, Medicare is a supplement to their core insurance, their primary caregiver. How do I phrase that?
No, you can get a supplement that will take care of some of the gaps in Medicare. Sometimes it's referred to as Medigap insurance. Okay. Because there are deductibles and copays, and some people want to get those covered as well. Okay.
So if I'm let's say I'm in the lower income person, I'm probably going to be relying more heavily on Medicaid, and I probably won't be even looking at Medicare. Is that correct?
No, you can have both.
Okay. If
you're low income and low assets, you might qualify for Medicaid and Medicare, and of course then that changes everything else.
And so Part A is hospital?
Yes.
And so is there, even in Part A, are there variables to that plan so that you could, it's like, you know, in the marketplace there's HMO and different ones where you have to go to restricted hospitals only. Are there certain hospitals that only take certain Medicare A plans?
No, Medicare A and B is standardized and all supplements are standardized. When you get into the HMOs and networks is when you start using Medicare C, which is Medicare Advantage plans.
Okay. We can't, obviously we can't talk exact dollars because we don't have an exact client here, but can people, is there a general rule in terms of this is going to be something that they need to anticipate is going to cost them a certain percentage of most people's income is going to have to be devoted to something like this? Is there a rule of thumb there for that?
Not really, because it depends on what risks they're willing to take and what resources they have available. And like if they have very few, then when they also have Medicare and Medicaid, then that determines too. But there are quite a few different options where they can have limited coverage, they can have more coverage, or they can have complete coverage.
Okay. Now, we know that this is the annual enrollment period, which is November and a few days of December every year.
October the 5th.
October.
October 15th to December 7th.
And that's annual.
Yes.
Okay, and then you mentioned this other plan, this Medicare Advantage plan. Their enrollment period is a different window of time?
No, it's the same period, and it also applies when you first are eligible. You have an open window when you can choose whatever you want.
So if someone's preparing to turn 65 in 2017, they need to be thinking 90 days ahead of that birthday. They really, maybe even before then, they need to start talking to somebody about what choices should I be making for my Medicare plans?
90 days is probably a good number. They can sign up 90 days ahead of time, but if they start looking 90 days ahead of time, that gives them 3 months to decide and also to get enrolled.
Okay. And then if I'm really a procrastinator, fortunately, kind of like that safety net, I have a 90-day window afterwards that I can participate there as well.
Right.
So in dealing with, you mentioned earlier that there are some erroneous statements that are being made about for confusing. Is there one that stands out that you'd say, boy, if you hear this, you need to back away, or is there just so many of them that it's hard to nail down to one?
Yeah, it's a pretty big field.
So if they're looking for someone, obviously you are a representative, but how do they find someone who specializes in Medicare insurance if they need somebody that can really advise them?
Well, there's a lot of agencies out. You can also get a lot of information by going on Medicare.com. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, when you get close to 65, you will get a lot of mail from a lot of companies, which will confuse it more.
Well, I'm sorry, but we've already run out of time on this segment. But David, it's been great to have you with us today and giving us some very important information, things I'm learning, and I'm sure I'm going to have to learn a lot more as we go along. But thank you for taking the time to be with us today and sharing your insights and encouraging others to take advantage of these opportunities as well. You know, I just want to remind you that it's not a lack of faith to prepare for the future. It's wisdom. And the Bible encourages us to balance wisdom and faith together. So as he talked about how the ant knew how to store up and prepare for the winter, we have to prepare as well. We have to anticipate the storms of life and the challenges of life. So one of those is in this arena of medical insurance. And there's plans that can help you with hospitals, doctors, eyesight, with dental. There's a lot of choices, but you have to explore them. So I encourage you to find a faith-based provider, if possible, a consultant that can help you understand the opportunities that are in front of you and make good choices about those. Again, thank you for joining us for this broadcast of Joy in Our Town. We'll be coming back in a few moments with another segment. Thank you for watching.